Hey guys, this is Miss Williams, and today we are going to start reading a book called Number the Stars by Lois Lowry. I'm going to read the back of it to kind of give you a little feel of what we're going to be reading for the next several times. So it says, it is 1943, and for Anne-Marie Johansen, life in Copenhagen is a complicated mix of ordinary home and school time, food shortages, and the constant presence of Nazi soldiers. Bravery seems a vague virtue, one possessed by dragon-slaying knights. In her bedtime stories she tells her younger sister, Kirsty. As the German troops begin their campaign to relocate all the Jews of Denmark, the Johansens take in Anne-Marie's best friend, Ellen Rosen, and pretend she is part of the family. The girls live like sisters until it becomes clear something more needs to be done to save Ellen, her family, and the Jews of Denmark. In this tale of an entire nation's heroism, the story of the Danish resistance and their plan to smuggle the entire Jewish population of Denmark, nearly 7,000 people across the sea of Sweden, is told with pride and hope through one young girl's eyes. So after I read this, we are going to do a quick little writing in your journal. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what I want you to do. I want you guys to pick two characters and describe the relationship between them from this book, from the first chapter. Whatever you think about these two characters, talk about the relationship. So let's begin. It's a short chapter. It's not that long, so it won't take too long. So the first chapter is, Why Are You Running? I raced you to the corner, Ellen. Anne-Marie adjusted the thick leather pack on her back so that her school books balanced evenly. Ready? She looked at her best friend. Ellen made a face. No, she said, laughing. You know I can't beat you. My legs aren't long enough. Can't we just walk like civilized people? She was a stocky 10-year-old, unlike lanky Anne-Marie. We have to practice for the athletic meet on Friday. I know, I'm going to win the girls' race this week. I was second last week, but I've been practicing every day. Come on, Ellen, Anne-Marie pleaded, eyeing the distance to the next corner of the Copenhagen street. Please. Ellen hesitated, then nodded, and shifted her own rucksack of books against her shoulders. Oh, all right, ready, she said. Go, shouted Anne-Marie, and the two girls were off, racing along the residential sidewalk. Anne-Marie's silvery blonde hair flew behind her, and Ellen's dark pigtails bounced against her shoulders. Wait for me, wailed little Kirsty, left behind, but the two older girls weren't listening. Anne-Marie outdistanced her friend quickly, even though one of her shoes came untied. As she sped along the street called Osterbrogade, past the small shops and cafes of her neighborhood, there in northeast Copenhagen. Laughing, she skirted an elderly lady in black who carried a shopping bag made of string. A young woman pushed a baby in a carriage, moved aside to make way. The corner was just ahead. Anne-Marie looked up, panting, just as she reached the corner. Her laughter stopped. Her heart seemed to skip a beat. Halt! The soldier ordered in a stern voice. The German word was as familiar as it was frightening. Anne-Marie had heard it often enough before, but had never been directed at her until now. Behind her, Ellen also slowed and stopped. Far back, little Kirsty was plodding along, her face in a pout because the girls wouldn't wait for her. Anne-Marie stared up. There were two of them. That meant two helmets, two set of cold eyes glaring at her, and four tall, skinny boots planted firmly on the sidewalk, blocking her path to home. And it meant two rifles gripped in the hands of the soldiers. She stared at the rifles first. Then, finally, she looked into the face of the soldier who had ordered her to halt. Why are you running? The harsh voice asked. His Danish was very poor. 3 years Anne-Marie thought with contempt. 3 years they've been in our country, and they still can't speak our language. I was racing with my friend, she answered politely. We have races at school every Friday, and I want to do well, so I... Her voice trailed away, the sentence unfinished. Don't talk so much, she told herself. Just answer them, that's all. She glanced back. Ellen was motionless on the sidewalk, a few yards behind her. Farther back, Kirsty was still sulking and walking slowly toward the corner nearby. A woman had come to the doorway of the shop and was standing silently watching. One of the soldiers, the taller one, moved towards her. Anne-Marie recognized him as the one she and Ellen always called in whispers the giraffe, because of his height and his long neck that extended from his stiff collar. He and his partner were also on his corner. He prodded the corner of her backpack with the stock of his rifle. Anne-Marie trembled. What is in here? He said loudly. From the corner of her eye, she saw the shopkeeper move quietly back into the shadows of the doorway, out of sight. School books? She answered truthfully. Are you a good student? The soldier asked. He seemed to be sneering. Yes. What's your name? Anne-Marie Johnson. Your friend? Is she a good student too? He was looking beyond her at Ellen, who wouldn't move. Anne-Marie looked back too and saw that Ellen's face, usually rosy-cheeked, was pale, and her dark eyes were wide. She nodded at the soldier. Better than me, she answered. What is her name? Ellen. And who is this? He asked, looking to Anne-Marie's side. Kirsty had appeared there suddenly, scrolling at everyone. My little sister. She reached down for Kirsty's hand, but Kirsty, also stubborn, refused it and put her hand on her hip defiantly. The soldier reached down and stroked her little sister's short, tangly curls. Stand still, Kirsty, Anne-Marie ordered silently, praying that somehow the 5-year-old would receive the message. But Kirsty reached up and pushed the soldier's hand away. Don't, she said loudly. Both soldiers began to laugh. They spoke to each other in a rapid German that Anne-Marie couldn't understand. She is pretty, like my own little girl, the tall one said, in a more pleasant voice. Anne-Marie tried to smile politely. Go home, all of you. Go study your school books, and don't run. You look like hoodlums when you run. The two soldiers turned away. Quickly, Anne-Marie reached down again and grabbed her sister's hand before Kirsty could resist. Hurrying the little girl along, she rounded the corner in a moment. Ellen was beside her. They walked quickly, not speaking, with Kirsty between them, toward the large apartment building where they both lived. When they were almost home, Ellen whispered suddenly, I was so scared. Me too, Anne-Marie whispered back. As they turned to enter their building, both girls looked straight ahead, toward the doors. They did it purposely so they would not catch the eye or attention of two more soldiers, who stood with their guns on the corner as well. Kirsty scurried ahead of them through the door, chattering about the picture she was bringing home from kindergarten to show Mama. For Kirsty, the soldiers were simply part of the landscape, something that had always been there, on every corner, as unimportant as lampposts, throughout her remembered life. Are you going to tell Mother? Ellen asked. Anne-Marie, as they trudged together up the stairs. I'm not. My mother would be upset. No, I won't either. Mama would probably scold me for running on the street. She said goodbye to Ellen on the second floor, where Ellen lived, and continued on to the third, practicing her own mind a cheerful greeting for her mother, a smile, a description of today's spelling test, in which she had done well. But she was too late. Kirsty had gotten there first, and he poked Anne-Marie's book bag with his gun and then grabbed her hair. Kirsty was chattering as she took off her sweater in the center of the apartment living room. But I wasn't scared. Anne-Marie was, and Ellen too, but not me. Miss Johansson rose quickly from her chair by the window where she'd been sitting. Miss Rosen, Ellen's mother, was there too in the opposite chair. They'd been having coffee together, and they did many afternoons.